This is Jacob Schmitt with huntfishlife.com. This video here, I'm going to talk about reel speed, because if you go to a tackle shop, look at a reel, look them up online, whatever you want to do, and you look even the exact same type of reel, you'll notice there's 3, 4, 5 different reel speeds. Okay, there's a reason that they have them different reel speeds, and in this video here I'm going to try to give you a basic explanation of why that is and what reel speed that you want for different types of baits. If you're bass fishing, this video is going to affect bass fishing big time. Depending on the bait that you're using, depends on the reel speed that you really want to use, and I'm going to do my best to explain that here in this short video. Generally, you can kind of think of it as gears in a vehicle. If you've ever driven a standard, you can kind of think of it like that. You've got in reels, you've got used to be really just 3 reel speeds. Now there's kind of 4, I guess you can categorize them with. So you got first, second, third, and fourth gear. Reel speeds, I'm going to call them, you got slow, you got a medium, you got fast, and then you got ultra fast. Okay, so your slow or your first gear is going to be this particular reel here. This is a Daiwa Tatula. It's a 5-4 to 1 here. That would be your first gear type speeds. Your 5s. That's going to be your lower gear, your power. That's where your power's at. Then you step up to your medium type. This particular reel here is the exact same reel as the other one I just showed you, but this is a 6-3 to 1 gear ratio here. This reel here is, and that's going to be your medium. That's going to be your second gear. This particular reel here, same type of reel. This is your 7-3 to 1. This is a 7-3 to 1. That's going to be like your third gear. Here recently, they've come out with some 9. I would say your third gear is going to be like your 7-3 to 1, 8 something to 1. When you get up to 9 and 10, and I think there's 11 something to 1, when you get to them, you're talking about ultra high speed. That's your fourth gear. You're talking about highway gears there. Okay, I'm going to kind of explain what you would use these different reel speeds for, and why you want different reel speeds for different types of baits. Okay, in general, if you're casting the bait, say like a crankbait, here, it's a Strike King 10XD. This is a bait you really want a lot of power with. For the most part, if you're casting and reeling with the reel, you want to go with a lower speed reel. Okay, now on the other hand, like a jerk bait here, if we're casting this bait and we move it with the rod, we're moving the bait with the fishing pole by working the rod with some action with the rod, or whatever you want to call it. You're using the rod to move the bait. Then you want to go with a faster speed reel. And then, I would say the more that you use the rod to move the bait, and the slower that you're moving that bait, I would say probably, this might sound crazy, but the faster that you want to go with the reel. Let's talk about the power for just a second. We're going to go back to first gear here. We're going to look at this Strike King 10XD right here. This is a big bait. It's got a lot of pull on you when you're working it, when you're fishing it. For the most part, you're casting this, reeling. You're moving the bait with the reel for the most part. You can use the rod tip some. You can pause it in different types of retrieves, and I'm going to make videos on that later on. But this big bait here, you want a reel that's got a lot of power. You don't want to go with a 7-8 or 7 or 8 to 1, because it's going to wear you out, because you're going to, all that force that thing's creating with that big bill on this is going to be into your hand as you're trying to crank that thing, and it's going to wear you out really fast, and you're going to be tired, and it's not going to be really that fun to fish. And if you're fishing a tournament or something where you're using this thing for 7, 8, 9 hours straight, you're throwing a big bait like this, you're going to find out that these professional bass fishermen are a lot tougher than you might think they are, because that thing's going to wear you down. So if you don't have the right reel, you want a slow reel. You want to get down into that first gear type reel where you've got some power, some cranking power, and all that force and stuff's not working on your motor, which your motor there is going to be your arm. So that's why you want a slower type reel. Now your medium type reels going to be something that you're going to work a little quicker. I use them. This is on a medium type reel here on a cranking rod. I use this a lot in the summer where I'm trying to get something to move a little faster. I'll tell you, the one thing I use a medium speed reel for a lot of times is a jig. This reel here is a luge reel. It's a 6-4-1. I use it on a jig a lot of times, and the reason for that is because you can fish a jig several different ways. You can reel that jig and actually fish it vertically, where you're just casting and you're reeling and you're really reeling. You're moving the bait with your hand, and if I'm doing that and I know that that's all I'm going to be doing, I may even step down to a little bit slower reel, and sometimes I'll step up to faster reel. This isn't actually etched in stone, but it's a general guide. So when you go and purchase reels, that you kind of understand what you're buying when you're buying what speed of reel to buy. But you can also cast this thing out there, pick it up off the bottom, hop it slow, work it slow. You can pitch it by a log, work it a couple times, reel it in, get it back out there and stuff like it. In that case, I want a really super high speed reel if I can, but a good medium reel, like if I'm going to plan on, I may be swimming it a lot, I may be pitching it, I may work it off the bottom a little bit. In that case, you might want to go with a medium type reel like this here, so that you have the best of kind of both worlds. You're kind of a mixed bag in the middle there. But if you know that all you're going to be doing is flipping that thing out there, let it hit the bottom, work it a couple times, and getting it back in that case, you want to step up to a really fast reel, because you want to be able to get that bait in fast, because at that point you're casting it out, you're working it, moving it with the rod tip a couple times, and then you're reeling that bait in back as fast as you can. In that case, you want a really fast deal. But that's going to be your middle speed reel here, is this 6-4-1. I'm going to wind this a lot. I swim a jig a lot, so I cast it and I swim it a lot. But I may see a log and I may throw past that log a few times to the same log repeatedly. That's why I want that middle, a little bit more mid speed, that middle thing. I've got some power for my reeling, and plus this isn't an overpowering bait when you're actually moving it. So now let's get to fast. Why do you want fast? We talked about the swim jig. Another reason I would want a really fast reel, say like a frog, I throw it out there, I twitch it a little bit, I'm working that with my rod tip. The other thing is when I get a strike or whatever, I want to be able to pick that line up fast, set the hook really good, and get that in, and then get that fish to the boat. So that's what this is, a high speed reel. This is a 7-1 to 1 right here. Okay. Another thing I would want a really high speed reel for. Let's talk the super high. Let's talk 4th gear. I don't have any to show you guys, but let's say, what would I buy one for? Let's say I'm going down and I'm pitching in some lily pads. I'm throwing the bait in there, I'm letting it sink, working it, maybe pick it up, drop it back down, and then I'm getting that thing back in. That's so I can, that time from it's out of the water to back and flipping it back in is as short as possible. I'm keeping that bait in the water as much as possible. I'm basically, casting it out, working it once or twice with my rod tip, and getting it back in, doing it right back in there, so I can move really fast. Now that's not a reel that I would want to, for the most part. Sometimes I may. There could be a situation where I'm wanting to swim a jig so fast that most people wouldn't think a fish could even bite it, and I do that. That's one technique that I do, and I'll talk about that later in other videos. But for now, we're going to talk about reel speed in general. So the ultra high speed, for the most part, you're not going to want it on a moving bait that you're actually using the reel to reel the bait, for the most part. Okay, so that's basic. That's a basic rundown of why there's different reel speeds. These manufacturers, these reel speeds, if you look up this reel here, they're going to have multiple speeds. The Daiwa Tatulas, like I just showed you guys, I showed you these 3 reels of the same reels. They have multiple speeds. They have 3, 4, 5 different speeds in the exact same reel, and there's a reason for that. It's not just because you know, they're wanting you to buy every single reel. You know, they obviously want you to, but there's a reason for that. There's an application for each reel. So I hope that this video helps you guys out the next time you go and you're picking out a reel, you're looking for a reel, because if you're buying quality reels, they cost a little bit, and I recommend buying quality reels because they hold up better, and up front they cost you more, but in the long run they save you a lot of money, because cheap reels just tear up on you real fast. But I hope the next time that you go buy a reel that this video here helps you out, and that you can understand what the reel speeds are in your application so that you're going to use it. So one more time really quick, just a basic understanding is the more that you use the reel to move the bait, the slower reel that you want. That gives the fish a little bit more time to engulf that bait in its mouth, and you can get a good hook set. Okay, the more that you use the rod, okay, the rod to move the bait, and you're using the reel just to take up the slack, the faster of a reel you want. Okay, so that's just a general basic way that when you're in there you can think about it. What kind of bait am I going to be using? You know, are you going to be using the rod to move it, or are you going to be using the reel? If so, if you're using the rod to move it, you want a fast reel. If you're using the reel to move it, you want to slow that reel down. Okay, so guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you out. Check out huntfishlife.com for more tips, information, things like that on hunting and fishing. Have a good day, and bye-bye.